Hello and welcome to another episode of the Stock Market Today video. It is Justin Nielsen here, and we are looking at some interesting action in the markets today. It's August 19th, 2025, and to help me break it down is my colleague Ed Carson, who is our news editor. Ed, we've got a lot to talk about today. I mean, the index has kind of masked how bad it was for a lot of growth stocks, but you've got some stocks to talk about as well, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you need my help for this market to be broken down. It felt like it, even though
It did it all on its own, huh?
it did it all on its own. But I want to take a look at Palantir, Insulet, and Micron technology.
Great, that sounds good. So let's just walk through a little bit of what was going on with the indexes. The S&P 500 down about 0.6%. The Nasdaq taking a pretty hard hit, down about 1.5%. Dow Jones Industrial about flat, and then we had the Russell 2000 down 0.8%. So yeah, let's pull up some charts and go through it and talk a little bit about the indexes themselves. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Nasdaq, if you don't mind, and have you chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean the other index is really not that big of a deal. It's really the Nasdaq and the growth stocks in there, and this is masking how bad it was for a lot of names. This is coming down to the 21-day line, so even this is okay. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
great to see this kind of drop, but it's not. This by itself, you look at the chart, it's like, okay, it's coming down to the 21-day line. It's done that a few times, no big deal. Uh, so not great to see it. It wasn't clear what did it. I mean, there was this and that. Maybe it just feels like people are getting a little jittery about AI euphoria, like maybe is it too high, that maybe we just run up too far. Because it didn't feel like there was any particular news that really was weighing on things. There was maybe Meta, there was reports about a reorganization and maybe scaling down the AI division. It's like, wait a second, I thought Meta was going crazy with the AI. It's just sort of like, so even though the news wasn't particularly bad, I mean, it's just like, just sort of like something returned to almost just like a normal action that will seem negative in that regards. But yeah, it was not a good day for growth stocks.
Hmm. And as you mentioned, we are still above that 21 exponential moving average line. That's the green line on this chart, which usually tells us, hey, we are in an uptrend. But there are those times we did see a little bit of what we call stalling action in here, where it's a form of distribution. It's a little tricky, where you just don't have any progress in the market, and that's something that we do pay attention to. It was one of the things for those of you that have been following the power trend. One of the rules under our market school program, the power trend has been under pressure, and that was due to really a lot of the stalling action, how it just couldn't make progress after a while here. But this is, you know, we had that move down below the 21-day moving average line on August 1st. We seem to snap right back from it, but Mike Webster, our senior market strategist, has been kind of pounding the table a little bit on this 1980 precedent, where it, kind of did a similar thing where we had been really going for a long time on the Nasdaq composite. This was back in October of 1980, and we had a similar sharp move down. We did get back up to new highs, but we just seemed to really kind of stall out, and things got a little bit uglier from there. So it remains to be seen if this is going to be the situation we see in today's market. But a couple other macroeconomic things, of course, Jackson Hole is coming up. A lot of folks looking at that. We've had housing starts. We still have some earnings. We can maybe check in on Toll Brothers a little bit later on, see what's happening there. But let's shift our attention to the S&P 500, because, yeah, I mean, this came down to this level that we were at previously, that we broke out of last week. But it doesn't look that bad. Not nearly as bad as some of the leading stocks looked, right?
Yeah, and even though you'll talk about it later, but if you show RSP, shows you where the strength. RSP was actually up today. It's like what? I
Hmm.
mean, and the decent gain is like so that shows you where the weakness. It's not one reason why the indexes are masking is because there seems to be some rotation.
Hmm.
That there seems to be not just the growth is leading the downside. It seems like there's other things that are up. Home builders are up. There's just definitely names. There's and infrastructure is up, and there's just some things that are doing fine. Financials are doing fine. Some travel names are doing well. Some medicals are doing well. I mean, depending on where you go, like some medical products and biotechs, but it's just so it's yeah, biotechs didn't have a great day, but there are definitely some things like Insulet which was up. So it's just there are areas that are strong or holding up.
Yeah.
So it just makes it a little bit trickier looking at the indexes, and it's just something for those who are concentrated and into growth stocks. And we can talk about it a little bit more when we look at the growth ETFs, but those are constant. That's where sometimes the real issue is that if
Mhm.
you've probably been enjoying the ride up, but it's not so much fun on the ride down.
Right. The old, you seem to take the stairs up and then it's the elevator down. Things seem to come down a lot quicker than you went up. Takes a long time to make the progress, very little time to lose it.
Yeah.
Let's also make sure we talk a little bit about the Russell 2000. I certainly was feeling a little bit like, gosh, here we go again with the Russell. We had, back here in November, this move up that was very short lived, had another one, and then it was just kind of disastrous. And that wasn't the first time. There were a number of these kind of false starts. What do you think? Is this another false start for the Russell where we had this huge strength and we did hold tight at first, but we're kind of undercutting the lows?
I don't know. It just seems like I've so almost given up on the Russell taking
Right.
a leadership role for anything. Even with the recent bounce, it really didn't do that much on the RS line ultimately. I mean, it was a nice day or two. I mean, but the RS line is just continually declining. I know at some point small caps will lead again, but it just doesn't seem like it's happened for so long. So yeah, but again, this wasn't disastrous. I mean, one thing is that often on bad days, small caps will outperform on the downside, and they'll outperform in either way.
Hmm.
And this was down, but not. It certainly wasn't as bad as the Nasdaq. So in some ways, this was relatively modest or something that always seems to swing more than the S&P.
Hmm. And let's just go ahead and finish the discussion with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was actually having an okay day for a little bit, but we've reversed well off its highs and did close in the lower part of its range, basically flat for the day.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's going to show that it's like close fractionally higher by like a few points. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like when the Nasdaq's down 1.5%, if the Dow can hold up, I mean, and everything else is down, that's not too bad of a day. But it just shows you that you can be an absolute winner and still you're not getting anywhere or you're
Mhm.
falling.
Yeah. And then we took a look at RSP, but I also wanted to make sure we circled back and took a look at the First Trust NASDAQ 100 equal weight index. So, of course, if we looked at the NASDAQ 100, the Qs down 1.36, but a very different story when you look at QQEW, only down half of that, 0.6%.
Yeah, for the day, not so bad. On the other hand, it's below or just right around the 50-day line. So it's worse over the last few weeks. It feels like, yeah, I mean, there were some mega caps that were down, but a lot of it felt like it was the 100 billion, the 200 billion, or like the Palantirs, which we'll look at, like other names, some big names. They're not mega caps, but those are the names that are tumbling. And
Mhm.
so QQEW knock some of those out, but it wasn't like, uh, yeah. So on the one hand, it was nice that it was a little bit mellower here. On the other hand, it hasn't been leading in the last couple of weeks. Lagging things like RSP, not just the Nasdaq, but I mean RSPs. So that's just something that's sort of interesting.
Yeah. And then taking a look, while we're talking about the tech heavy indexes here with the Qs and QQEW, chips, SMH, the VanEck semiconductor, down below its 21-day line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's definitely better than some other growth ETFs. Well, NVIDIA has earnings in just over a week. So if you have AI jitters right now, well, we'll see if those are founded or not. I mean, this was not NVIDIA closed below the 21-day line for the first time since May 1st or something.
Hmm.
So that's notable. Again, one good day, and this is at record highs. I'd say with some of the other names, it would take one heck of a good day to be back at record highs. For NVIDIA, you really could be there. So don't want to make too much of that name. But IGV, that one looks worse. Ironically, for a while, software's been struggling for a while. In some ways, it was masked for a while because Palantir and Oracle are the two biggest names in IGV, and those were holding up so well until very recently. But now,
Until they weren't.
until they weren't. And so
Yeah.
maybe today, maybe IGV didn't have as bad of a day as, I mean, maybe software didn't have as bad of a day as IGV, but that's definitely been struggling. And it's now clearly below the 50-day line. So, and this is generally made up of big names. This is not just small fry. So, it's not good action here. And FFTY, definitely have to take a look at that because that's sort of your hot growth names. And that's a big hit. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, it really hadn't decisively, maybe we closed below the 21-day line like once or twice, but it really hadn't gotten anywhere below that of any significance at the close, really, in months, and now
Mhm.
decisively below that. Now it's testing the 50-day, essentially 10-week. So that's something there. I think in general, I think investors should be thinking, I mean, if you're more of a swing trader, you might be going way down, might have been really heavily invested in almost nothing now if,
Mhm.
if you're growth concentrated. If you're a position trader and you have big winners, you probably want to get the ball rolling, wanted to get the ball rolling. It's so much
Yeah.
easier if you sell some. Okay, yeah, the market might rebound, but that's fine. That's good. You got your core position and you can always buy that stock back or something else. But it's much better than waiting and waiting, then finally giving in. And you're the capitulation seller. You don't want to be,
Right.
I mean, it's fine if you sold your last 10% or your last quarter at the bottom. I mean, that happens, but
Hmm.
you don't want to sell everything at the bottom. I think just people need to be taking some action, just get that ball rolling. It becomes much easier either way. Either then you can hold on to the rest for a little while, or you can shed when it's clearly that it's breaking lower.
Yeah. One other place to take a look is IBIT, the
Oh yeah.
Bitcoin ETF. Um, got below the 21-day moving average line yesterday, but closed well, and now we're right there at the 50-day moving average line.
I think just in general, this seems like something that you want to buy off the 50-day line. I'm not really encouraging it right now
Hmm.
when it hits the 50-day line because it could go below it. It certainly has. But clearly speculative growth is struggling right now. Again, this this is where you might find support 50-day top of the old base. But yeah, cryptos is falling just like a lot of other things.
And a lot of times when we do look at those pullback buys, we are kind of waiting for the strength. This is a good
Yes.
example here where we got that reversal, a touch of the 50-day moving average line reversal. You had some strength to rely on and a way to really kind of minimize your loss if you're wrong. We expect to be wrong a lot of times, but we want to make sure that when we are wrong, we can cut our losses pretty quickly. So, yeah, right now we don't have the strength part of this yet. So that's a missing part of the equation. Let's go ahead and take a look. We mentioned Palantir earlier as you were talking about IGV, of course, Palantir and Oracle and Microsoft among the big components in IGV, but gosh, as you said, this is one that's been trending so nicely above the 21-day, and I think that's the thing about a lot of this trending so nicely above the 21-day moving average line for so long, and now this is a pretty ugly hit, down 9.3, 9.4% off today, and now if you look at the weekly, it's already 17% off its high in just a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's for a company, for a stock that goes up as fast as it does. Boy, it does not take any time at all for this to go down. And just look back, just back in February. Obviously, that was a bad bear market and everything that happened, but this stock lost almost half its value in just a few weeks. And really, most of that was just in the first couple weeks back in February, March, April. You can just
Hmm.
see how it sold off so much. It doesn't have to hold. And there were times it's like, and just that's just the nature, and that's what so many girls like. It's not like Palantir is like unusual. There's so many names that are going to do that, and looking back, there's a lot of those other bases are 30, 40% deep
Yeah,
probably. They just don't look. I guess 20. They right, but 30. They're not as
but
bad
if
as
we
they
go
could
to
be.
the monthly, I mean, this was no bueno, right?
Yeah, and you
In
just don't want to be
2022.
part of that. I mean,
Yeah,
what if this sold off to 80? I mean, because people have talked about, I know we don't usually talk about valuation. This is highly valued, even for highly valued companies. It does have a lot of growth. It is doing a lot of great things,
hmm,
but you could easily, highly valued big winners or tend to be the big losers in a downdraft. And so if we do have a downdraft, again, this could be where we find support. Maybe it finds support at the 10-week line. It certainly could, but you want to start getting the ball rolling because otherwise, well, where do you? Because then you'd be like, it can be hard to start selling. It
yeah,
can be hard to, so it depends on what works for you psychologically. You can try to sell on the way up some, or you can try to sell when it starts breaking through the 10-day or the 21-day line, but find a strategy that there's no perfect strategy. You're not going to sell right at the top and then buy right at the bottom. That just doesn't work. happen, but you want to do a way that preserves the bulk of the gains and make sure that you don't like see a massive gain, wipe out as
Mhm.
well.
I feel like I'm more likely to buy right at the top and sell right at the bottom, but that's just my
Yeah.
particular
Well, I
talent.
don't know about that.
So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, when you're 17% off the high, it can be a little unnerving to start your selling there. So again, sometimes getting that ball in motion a little bit earlier can help, because then it's one of those things where, okay, if you sell when you're down maybe 5% off your high, then you can kind of make a decision. Okay, if you're down more, you can sell more. And if it rebounds, comes right back up, you can either buy those shares back, or you still have a lot that you're participating in. So those incremental decisions are helpful. But yeah, at a certain point when you're down so much, you feel like, oh, now do I just throw in the towel with everything? Or is it one of those situations where you start saying, well, I'm down this much, what's a little bit more at this point?
Yeah,
And
and there's
that can
not
be
a
very dangerous.
and one more point I just was like this was a really good example of selling on the way up. I think is like people talking like David Ryan talking about the trend line that we had. It's sort of that last burst after earnings. It sort of punched above maybe what the trend line was. And again,
Mm.
maybe just taking because there really wasn't a sell signal until today
Yeah.
on the downside. Because again, so I mean, sometimes if it's going up and then it might have broken the 21-day earlier, but you really had to be down 12, 15% from the highs to get any kind of sell signal. And that's not like, oh, panic, sell everything sell signal, but just some sell signal because the drops were low volume, blah, blah, blah. But this is a place maybe when it's sort of like is gapping up and breaking that trend line and going, wait a second, maybe just take a little piece, just take a taste. And that helps that regard because then you can that some ways it's easier to sell near the top when you're on the way up. Again,
Hmm.
that's easy to be hindsight, but it's just like there was a way that is an argument for why you sell early because there really wasn't a reason to sell on the
Hmm.
downside until today.
Yeah. And there again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
No,
Maybe you
no.
sell a little bit, and
Yes.
if it pulls back and then shows some strength, maybe supported the 21-day moving average line, you could pick some of those shares back up, maybe even at a lower price, and all as well. And then again, if it keeps on going up, yeah, you're not participating as much, but you still have some. That's again one of the things about incremental selling or buying, for that matter, that can really be helpful instead of doing all or nothing. Um, it wasn't all ugly out there. Insulet, ticker symbol PODD. This was a medical products, something that we were talking about on IBD Live yesterday and today. What's happening here? I mean, a big move on its last earnings, kind of consolidated a little bit, but this did not look like what most of the stocks look like out there.
No, and there's definitely some medical names, and medical often does well in trickier markets like so-so markets because honestly, the government or insurance companies cover most of it, so they're a little bit more protected on that. So it just defensive growth, and this one has strong growth. I mean, it had some tough times here, but the growth has really come back on. There's a lot of confidence about some growth in there. You can see the acceleration in the last couple of quarters on earnings and revenue growth. uh, there wasn't a lot of volume as it made that latest surge up. That is one thing there, um, you know, but some really powerful action. And it's just something, again, it's tough to buy on a day like this. And I can feel,
Hmm.
I didn't really do any buying, but if you were to do it, the market is signaling that there are places in this market that are working. And so it's one thing to say like, maybe I'll take a little bit of foothold in some of these other areas that seem to be doing better.
Yeah. And as you mentioned on IBD Live this morning, since you were hosting, uh, Learn LRN, which is the company Stride, had a very similar look. This one was also up for the day with a similar look. Uh, Micron, just to finish the conversation here, uh, we are still looking for setups, right? We don't give up on setups, and this looks like it could be a cup with handle in the formation. What do you
It's
think of
not
this
in the
one?
formation anymore. It just takes another hour for market search to recognize it. But this is going to be a cup with
Right.
handle in just another, just very shortly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's 5 days. That's a handle. So it's not much of a savings, but it's just taking a rest after that. And while the relative strength line might be coming down, if you compared this, I'm sure to the Nasdaq,
Hmm.
Now this is a nice, this is Nasdaq, but it's like it would just be a different thing. And versus growth stocks, and versus this is just doing much better than a lot of names today. I mean, a 1% decline, holding yesterday's low. Those are just not things we saw on many tech
Holding
growth
Friday's
stocks.
low. I mean,
Friday's low, yeah,
things holding
Friday's low,
above
yeah, yeah.
Friday's low, I think, are kind of spectacular right now.
Yeah, you're right. So it's just something to watch out for. I mean, they gave positive guidance just a week of last week, so that's probably one reason. It's like what people feel confident that the near term at least business is strong for this. But yeah, strong volume on the way up on the way up the right side, drying up a lot. I mean, it's very little volume today, micron level volume, I would say.
Yeah, right.
And so it's just one we don't see. Now, maybe tomorrow people say, you know what? I don't know why people are excited about Micron. There'll be a big downgrade and this will fall 7%. I don't know. This is why it's like we wait for at least I would say, wait for a down break of a downtrend. And with the growth, with the tech market being sort of struggling, you know, I'm going to be fairly cautious about tech stocks. I'll be honest. And if I
Hmm.
do something, it'd be with a very like a pilot position at most. But if there is that strength, this looks like a stock that wants to do well in the face of real headwinds for the tech sector.
Yeah, yeah. So now it's a matter of it wants to do well, but can it? So, bottom line here, Ed. I mean, we have been kind of throwing up some cautionary signals on the stock market today video here over the last few days. Webby's talk on Friday. We've been, kind of saying, hey, be be on the lookout for exit strategies. Just in case things the stalling accompanied by distribution as well. So given the hit today, what should people be thinking for those that maybe didn't do enough selling? And I personally sometimes always feel like I don't do enough selling ahead of time. But for those that maybe feel like they didn't do enough selling, or again, we could snap right back. How do you prepare for a potential bounce?
Well, I probably wouldn't do anything right at the open tomorrow. That's one thing
Yeah.
because you never know. We could snap back, or we could fall for the first 5 minutes and then we rebound. I don't know. And look, Fed Chief Powell is speaking on Friday. Some of this seems like AI focused or growth focused, and not just. But obviously, if Powell spurs a massive rally, these growth names are going to bounce too. So that's going to happen in that regard. So I mean, I just think that, yeah, I think that you should definitely be thinking, okay, if things aren't, like if I should have sold some of these things, well, if it's like half an hour in, you may start some of that process. I mean, the worst thing that happens is that you sell a little bit of a stock and then it goes up. I mean, oh
Mhm.
no, that's how it's like that's really what you want. You don't want to sell a little bit and then have the rest of it drop in some ways. So I would just think get that going, get those, start working on it. Like it's sort of like if maybe it would have been a good thing to sell today or even earlier, but you should don't freeze. Don't say just because I did it today, I can't do it. Like get going on it. Uh, if we bounce back tomorrow morning, it's like, well, okay, maybe you'll be lucky, maybe you'll use an opportunity to cash out a little bit. If you feel like, you know what, maybe I was too concentrated, you can even use a bounce to get out that. You just have to do things that get yourself to a level that you feel is comfortable for your exposure level and in this kind of environment.
Hmm. And one thing to just check on, we mentioned this at the outset that Toll Brothers was having its earnings report. Looks like right now, wow, it was just a moment ago.
Well, I think they
Uh,
just reported,
okay,
so
so
this
it's
one could
it's all
swing
over the
all
place.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. I haven't seen the numbers, but I think it was supposed to report. It beat Fuse by a little bit. I don't know what their guidance was like. Obviously, somebody didn't like something. And look, these stocks have all rallied a lot in anticipation of good news.
Yeah.
So that's an issue when you run up, run up, run up, and then earnings come. It's like, well, what's left. I mean, it's sort of like when the surprise birthday party has been spoiled. It's hard to get really excited when they all say surprise. It's like, eh, you know so we'll that can be, so we'll take a look. I mean, this is very early on, but it's
Yeah.
something to note. It's one of the first names that we've seen since a lot of these housing plays have gone above their 200-day line. So we'll have to see, but not a great initial reaction.
Yeah. And as you often say in your futures column that can be found at investors.com with the stock market today, you often say, hey, overnight action does not necessarily translate to what's going to happen the next day. So
And I
always
think that's
be,
it's been especially true the last few weeks. I feel like it's been crazy how
mhm,
many stocks will gap up, then give up their gains, or the other way, will plunge and then return. I mean, I know that always happens, but man, it feels like there's been a lot of that in the last few weeks, which may be another thing, but we'll see how things go.
yeah. And for more information on how Toll Brothers kind of pans out tomorrow, you can always join us on IBD Live. Ed and I are both on very regularly. Ed hosting. I jump in as host every now and then. But yeah, that's a place that you can kind of get that a real time analysis as the market unfolds. We start 10 minutes before the market open and go probably an hour and a half into the market. Market session. So that's something to watch and kind of get an idea of what we're thinking, how we're analyzing stuff. And today we had David Ryan. He announced that he was 40% invested as the day opened, and so that was
Yeah.
probably something that made it a little bit easier to not have as much at risk as the stocks were coming in. So hopefully that's something you can all join us for. You can go to investors.com/IBD live for that. Also join us for the podcast tomorrow. We're going to have the chief brokerage officer of Hood, Robinhood, on tomorrow to talk a little bit about the stock and also what's happening with some of those Hood investors, the people that are using the app. So we'll be chatting with him about that. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Ed, for your commentary. Really appreciate it. And we will see you all tomorrow. Join us again and also be keeping up to date intraday on investors.com for all of the intraday action that's happening and a wrap up at the end of the day with the big picture column. So that'll really help you keep in line with the market. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye now.